Alright, what you need to do now is open up Dreamweaver. Everybody open up Dreamweaver if you have not done so already. Let's show you. Now, the very first thing you should do when we're creating a new website, I don't know exactly what file names they tell you to use. I did not make copies of this one right here. I did put a copy of it on my website because there's not as much stuff that you need to copy down. But we will be working through this part right here where it says Dreamweaver Chapter 2 demonstration. I know some of you have pulled that up, some of you have not. You might want to have that opened up just in case there's a couple of things you might have to type down. But let's get this site set up before we do anything else. Let's go and click where it says Site and hit New Site. Click Site and hit New Site. And under the site name, let's just call it Chapter 2 Demonstration. You should be doing this with me, please. And there where it says local site folder, make a new folder called Chapter 2 Demonstration. As I keep I'm having to remind people this whenever I come around a lot, is before you start on anything, you should go to this Manage Sites menu and make sure you've loaded up the correct website. And I'm going to hit select folder there. And I'm actually going to put B2 at the end of mine because I'm going to do this one here class as well. And I'm going to hit save. And then over here on the right hand side, you should see right up here. This name right there should say Chapter 2 Demonstration. It should say Chapter 2 Demonstration there. And right now there is no file. Okay, does everybody get to that point? Now, one thing we need to do before we create any files is we're going to create a CSS file to go along on this website. If you notice when I had you all copy those files from the other stuff that we did, the CSS files were in their own folder. Let's make a folder over here, and let's make a folder called CSS that will go inside this folder so we can store our CSS files. Just go and right click there and hit New Folder. And call that new folder CSS. What does CSS stand for?
Constructive
Cascading Style Sheet. Now, before we create any new pages, the first thing I want you all to do is let's click on the File menu and choose New. Now, if you were going to create a fluid grid layout, you would go down there and choose Fluid Grid, and it says Legacy inside parentheses. If you ever try to do this on your home computer, feel free to use that. If any of you have purchased this program or have an illegal idea, when you use the Fluid Grid Legacy, it creates a CSS file for you. We're not going to do that. Choose where it says HTML. Give it a document titled Template. Let's call it Template. So this is going to be your template page. And then hit Create. And then save this using the name template as well. Save it as template. We're not going to call this an index. Let's call this a template file. Now, template. T-E-M-P-L-A-T-E. Save it as template.
Is that
It's an HTML file.
Yeah, that's in the chapter too.
Yeah, over here in this folder right here. We're not saving it in the CSS folder yet. Now, this is the part you haven't done this for. What's the strongest question? What? Well, this template file should not be inside your CSS folder. Now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to create a CSS file. We're going to create this file, we're going to save it, and then you're not going to open it up again. Unless you're one of those people that likes CSS stuff. And then you can go back and edit it that way. But we're not going to open it up again. Same way as you get yours over there. Let me double check. This needs to be saved. Okay. Yes, sir.
That mine says this is the same.
Yeah, it's not, it's supposed to be a folder, not a file. Right click, folder called CSS. Okay, now, you all need to pay very close attention to these next instructions I'm going to give you, okay? Because you haven't created a CSS file yet. Just click on File, and then hit New. File, and then New. And over here where it says Document Type, choose CSS. And then hit Create. Now, this is what it's going to look like when you hit Create. Okay? It's going to look like this right here. Okay? Right now it doesn't have any codes on it. What we're going to do right now, pay very close attention to this. You're going to hit File. You're going to choose Save As. When you do that, it should pop up with this menu right here. Okay? You have a folder called CSS. You have a file called Template. Open up that CSS folder. Give it the file name Styles. You can type .css at the end of it if you'd like. Make sure that you're saving it as a CSS file. But go ahead and hit save. It needs to be inside that CSS folder over here. Okay? Your template file. Make sure this file, template.html, is not inside your CSS folder. Does everybody understand that? Inside your CSS folder needs to have the file called styles.css. Your template file does not need to be in that folder. Now, after you've done that, let's close this file that says styles.css, please. Now you can close it out. We're going to edit it, but we're going to edit it without having to go and type the code here. Okay? We're going to generate the CSS codes ourselves. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to add some pieces to this template file. Let me make sure I've got. If you are looking at, yes, sir. You all look. Hopefully by now you'll know how to open and close files in Dreamweaver. But look, right here. Just hit that. Yeah, that closes it out. You can open it out by going over here. Okay. Okay. Now, those of you that are going to follow along with what we're doing and all that good stuff, I'm starting in this book and those handouts that are posted on my website. I'm starting on page 94 where it says to add a structural element to the grid. we're going to add these little structural elements to those ribs. All we're going to do is put different pieces to the page on there. Page 94 in this document right here, which is probably, I don't know how many pages down it is.
Well, it's page 12.
That's what page 12 is.
Still, it's
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, I'm not going to go back and forth to there. You can follow along on there, or you can do this with B, however you want to do it. Now, take a look here. Over on the right-hand side, this little menu over here. You have your Files menu. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. Click over on, take that off. You have this File menu right here. You have this thing called CC Libraries. You have the Insert menu. You have Snippets. You have CSS Designer. Now, before we do anything right here, let's go and attach our CSS file to our page, okay? The way we're going to do that, click over there on the right-hand side where it says CSS Designer. I apologize, this was not on. Click where it says CSS Designer over there. And right here where it says Sources, you see where it says Sources? Hit that little plus sign right there. And where it says Attach Existing CSS File, choose that one. And then right here, this thing is going to pop up. Go ahead and hit Browse. And go open your CSS folder. Choose the one that says Styles. And click OK. And then click OK. And for those of you that are interested in seeking the code, if you go into the split view, you will see this line of code right here. You should have that line of code right there. It says link href equals css/styles.css. There's other information on there. If for some reason you create a different page on this and you want to attach the CSS file to that page, that's the exact process that you would use. Now, we're going to go add some stuff over here. Those of you that are following along, in the book part, on page 95, they kind of get to the part where we're going to start adding the structural elements on there. If you go to this little Insert tab right here, you will see the different structural elements that we're going to add in here. You all, when we were designing your web pages in straight HTML last semester, you did basically all of these things right here, okay? You got the divs and all those good things. We're going to scroll down here where it says header, navigation, main, aside, article, section, footer. Those are the sorts of things we're going to put in on this page starting now. The first one that we are going to put in is click where it says header. Click header right there. Now, when you click header, this is what pops up, okay? It's going to ask you where you want to insert it. In this case, leave it at insertion point. What are your other options there?
Class ID.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about under the insert. We'll just leave it at the insertion point for right now. You have class and ID. We're going to assign an ID to each one of these things, okay? Basically, the ID is just a little identification tag for each part that you're going to put on the page, okay? In this case, we're going to put our logo for this website right there. So in the ID box, type in logo. And when we go and create our styles later, you're going to style this page by the ID. So choose logo. Now, when you do that, does anything fancy happen? Is that very exciting right there? No. The answer is no, it's not very exciting. Because we haven't gone and styled it yet, right? As we add this stuff in there, make sure you hit save. Save your work on it. Let me flip over to the next page. Now, the next thing we're going to insert. After that, let's insert navigation. So, under header, choose navigation. And we're going to give this the ID nav. This will be our navigation bar, so call it nav, NAV. Click OK. Now, all you see what we're doing right now is we're just stacking stuff on top of each other, right? Pretty easy stuff so far, right? Anybody not getting it before I move on? Hit navigation. There you go. ID, call it man. There you go. Okay. Navigation. ID, call it man. Hit okay.
Oh, you clicked on something. Huh? You're still on the
Get it?
It's showing up right here.
I don't know what you did. Hit header, header logo. Okay. Now, let's click off that. Navigation. And there you go. That's how you're supposed to do it. You gotta click off it. Anybody else having trouble with that before we move on? Y'all, one thing, a key thing, I'm guessing that the people that are struggling with this part right here, make sure you're in design view, but B, when you go to insert something there, don't leave this selected right there. Click off of that. If you're putting it wherever the insertion point is, so make sure you click off of that. Don't leave that selected, please. Now, those of you that were having the issues with it, look up here, please. When I go to insert something next, if I were going to insert a section right there, where it says insert, it's telling me I'm inserting it at the insertion point. Okay? There's some people that, the people I had to come around and correct theirs, they still had this selected. So when you do that and you insert it at the insertion point, it's trying to add that inside the header. They are completely separate sections. Make sure you keep them separate. If you're inserting something at the insertion point, click off of it, please. Okay. But y'all, I promise you, when I say if you do it exactly the way I do it, that means do it exactly the way I show you, okay? I promise you it'll work if you do that. If you deviate from what I show you, I can't promise you your stuff is going to work. And it's going to be hard for me to figure out because I'm not sitting here watching each individual computer. Okay, where was it? Now, the next part right here, over here on the right, we are going to insert a section. So choose section right there. And we're going to give that the ID. What's the ID of that? What's that? We're going to call that one banner. Put a page banner. Call that banner. Banner. Okay.
Just like,
And then, what?
is that section?
Yes, section. We're gonna add 2 sections. Do one section called banner, and we're gonna do another one called content. Make sure you're doing the ID, not the class. Click OK. And what do y'all think we're going to put on there last?
Footer.
Very good. What do you think we're going to call the footer section?
Well, minus is cool.
I'm going to call it not text. We're going to call it the footer.
Good.
Okay.
No, I named it minus is cool.
Mr. Smith made the same mistake that I told you all not to make. I'm going to go back and edit mine. That is for the content section. Go back and edit this one right here. I made a mistake. I am fixing my error. I want to make sure I get it right. For you all. Well, because it's not displaying properly, I want to make sure it's displaying properly. What do you think about that? Footer, ID, footer. There we go. Now, you all, when you are done with yours, you've done adding these sections, that's what yours should look like. If yours does not look exactly like that, then you have made some sort of error. When you zoom in, so you can see here. Double check yours and make sure yours is correct before we move on. Yes, sir.
There's supposed to be an empty box at the bottom.
That. Anybody not have that before we move on? Now, the reason why it's all black and white, all the same text and all that stuff is we haven't styled any of the sections yet. Okay. Now, this next part, make sure you hit save on all of your work here. And box it. Now, move on to the next part. Okay, now if you're following along on those handouts, it's on page 98. You know what? Let's stop there, simply because we're going to add a bunch of stuff on there. We're going to go and stop. We're going to add some text on there. We're going to style each of those pages. And I don't want to start that and not change it. So we're going to